May our lives, not just our words, acknowledge how great you really are. In your name we pray. Amen. You gotta go to church camps more often. Yeah. All right, kids, meet CJ over here. Keep waving till they all get here. Just keep waving. Don't stop waving. Don't stop waving. Try not to hit. Hey! Shoo, shoo. We did that to figure out how long y'all missed church. We've been meeting over here for a while now. Max, I'm so thankful you brought your medication.
Yeah, I brought mine too.
Everybody brought their medicine? Who's in charge of y'all today? Y'all know? Who's going down? Oh no, somebody's going. Seriously? But they brought their medicine.
I'm so sorry.
All right, so what's in the pill box? Sam, I'll ask.
Oh, what?
I'll ask. What's in the pill box?
Smarties.
Smarties. Why Smarties?
Because it's happy medicine.
It's happy medicine. How many of y'all brought your happy medicine?
You know what?
They all brought it. Some of them aren't admitting it. What's that say? Let's read it.
A cheerful heart is good medicine.
A cheerful heart is good medicine. Right?
Proverbs 17:22.
Yes, thank you. What, Max having trouble getting his cheer out? It's pretty bad when they put your cheer underneath a childproof cap.
I didn't bring any medicine.
Cheerful heart is good medicine. How many of you all, who gave him medicine? How many of you all, oh Lord. How many of you all have trouble sometimes with a cheerful heart? Just Sam. All right. Yeah. Now watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. I want you all to look out there. How many of you all sometimes have trouble with a cheerful heart?
I don't have trouble with it.
Yeah, that's why we call them grumpy. So keep it real and keep the cheer in your heart. And yes, it's not coming, don't let it come from the bottle. That's another story altogether. But Proverbs has it right. God is your cheer, and a cheerful heart does what?
Good medicine.
Good medicine. Y'all go with Miss Mary. Shoo. No, you keep it. No, you keep it. She's going to throw it. Watch. No, take it with you. Hey, you got him trained already. Ridiculous. I can handle them. Anybody else want front row? All right, so you can all relax. Today is going to be really easy compared to last week. All right? Not even going to talk about politics at all. Not even going to mention the word politics. Just making sure you're listening. Just making sure you're listening. Actually, we're going to ask the question, what in the world's going on? Because I think you ask that question in your life kind of regularly. What in the world is going on? There's a problem in your life, something's gone wrong, just something amiss, and you typically say, what's wrong? What's off? Where maybe you get spiritual and you say, where's God? Why is he not listening to me? I can't seem to get close to him. Or you might even say, I can't seem to get his attention. I've asked and I've asked and I've asked, and I wanted it to go this way and it went this way. God doesn't seem to be listening. So if there's a theme today, it'll be when God doesn't seem attentive. When he doesn't seem attentive. We're going to look at a story in the Bible that's kind of a hard story to grapple with. And you may have heard the story told and other sermons come out of it, and they're not wrong. But I want us to look at it from a different perspective today and maybe be able to align with it some. And understand that it's not always going to go our way. But to realize that when it's not going your way, it was never going to go your way anyway. It was always going to go God's way. Even when you are 100% assured that you changed God's mind and it went your way anyway, it has never ever gone your way. Ever. Can any of you think of a time when it went your way? You're afraid. I understand. Okay. Yes. We all believe that there was a time that we prayed and it went our way. God went my way. You're wrong. I promise you. Promise. God has never, ever sat around a table and thumbed through your ideas and said, yeah, this one will work today. You know what? He's been good. We're going to give him that one. Never, ever. You always got into God's way. You happened upon God's way. You were in tune with God's way when you asked him to make it your way, which made it not your way anyway. It was always God's way. And the quicker you and I get to that conclusion, the better life on the planet seems to go. Seems to go. Because life on the planet doesn't change. God doesn't exist so that your life here on the planet gets worked out and you get comfy. Just doesn't belong that way. So when you pray and it seems like God's just not paying attention to you, let me reassure you, he's not. You're not paying attention to him. I wanted to tell you all that so that you could go, so glad I came to church today. Because I just hate it when you and I as Christians use God to make our lives come out like we want them to come out. And we gather other people around us, and we seek refuge in them, and we beg them to ask God on our behalf, just in case our volume knob's not loud enough. And we get as many as possible on our team, and we honestly believe we're going to change God. And in reality, he's changing us. And you should always do that. You should get everybody to pray. Everybody to pray. Absolutely. Don't ever stop that. But realize they're praying to get you on board. So when God seems inattentive, it's because you aren't focused on him. You got to get in tune. We talked this morning about Melchizedek, and if you've never had a riveting discussion, you need to discuss Melchizedek. Come Wednesday night, we might talk about him again just for fun. But we compare our relationship to God to a marriage of husband and wife. And when you understand marriage the way it was intended, then you understand how you react to God. Because the more you love your spouse, the closer you are. You don't go and try to get closer to your spouse so that you can love them more. You love them more, and you automatically get closer to them. You get on the same page with one another. The more you love one another. Now, the only difference in our analogy is that in a marriage, the man is always wrong, and the woman is, well, okay, that's the reality, however. But there's still, both of you have a problem, okay? You're both got wrongness. The only difference when we talk about God is Jesus never, ever is wrong in our relationship. He's never done anything to mess up the relationship. So as you're walking through life and you find yourself going, wonder where God is. He didn't leave a note and take off. He's right there. He's still there. He is being attentive. He's being attentive to the purposes that God has out there. And you are focused on the plan. How many of y'all ever asked, well, I wonder if this is God's plan? Go ahead. Go ahead. It's okay. Yes, we've all asked the question, right? I want to know what God's plan is. Guess what? He's probably not going to tell you. And even if you thought you knew the plan, you don't know the plan. I think God deals in purpose. And the story we're going to look at today will bring that out a little bit. And isn't it interesting how people make this more difficult? When you think that you can get closer to God by doing things, you meet a preacher. You ever met a preacher who has all the right preacher stories? Like the one that starts out when I was on this airplane, because every good preacher story starts when I was on an airplane. I was sitting next to this lady and found out that she was a crackhead palm reader. And she said, can I see your hand? I said, well, sure. So she looked at my hand. She goes, oh my gosh, it's in the shape of a cross. And I was like, that's because Jesus died for my sins. And he wants to live in you. And she found Jesus right there on the airplane. And the captain overheard our conversation, came out of the cockpit and got saved. Was so turned on by Jesus that he turned the plane around and we parachuted into an unreached people group. The entire tribe found Jesus and got so fired up that they moved back to Illinois and went to Wheaton College and now serve on the Billy Graham Association Executive Board. That's amazing, right? And that really happened. But isn't it kind of like that? You're always meeting these guys and they're like, oh, I pulled into the mall the other day and God bless me, there was a parking space right up front. Oh, I knew it was going to be a good day right then. Walked in there and not 30%, not 50, it was 75% off, praise God. I got all this stuff for $5. And you know, and this morning when I got up, I got in my Jesus Calling book, and he said, I got big plans for you today. And there they were. Great parking spot, big sale. Man, I was just dancing for joy. I danced like David danced. You know, you meet that person, and you're just like, shut up. Right? You know, because they're like that. And you know God's not like that. You know he's not like that, right? How many of y'all know that God's not like that? Oh, shoo. I thought I had my work cut out for me. Then why do you say the prayers you do? Then why do you say the things you do to him? Why do you beg him to get on your side? Oh, but I'm talking about life and death. Well, you're not telling me about healing stuff, right? Your side's your side, no matter the outcome, no matter the blessing. You know, there's a guy named John the Baptist. Y'all know him? He started a Baptist church. Some people actually believe that. Can you believe that? I know he didn't start a Baptist church because he wore a loincloth. Just not enough clothing for a Baptist. So we know he didn't do that. But anyway, so the story of John the Baptist, he's the most radical prophet you can imagine. I mean, he was the Donald Trump of Jerusalem, okay? I mean, he had it all going on. He did wear, he ate locust and honey, okay? He did wear animal skin, all right? He hung out in the wilderness. And his entire life's message was, Jesus is coming, okay? That was it. That was his entire life devotion. He was Jesus' cousin. So when they saw each other, they were like, hey, cuz. No, really, they were cousins. So he was really close to Jesus. I mean, he had Jesus' ear, you would think, right? He would say things like, there's a guy, don't worship me. I know I baptized you, but there's another guy coming, of whose sandals I'm not even worthy to tie. Now, do you know that's the only reason you think Jesus wore shoes? Is because John the Baptist said that? Do you know that when John the Baptist said that, he hadn't met Jesus yet? So we don't really know if Jesus wore shoes. I just wanted to throw that out there. So John the Baptist, he's acknowledging that Jesus is coming, and that's pretty much all he wanted to do. And he said things that weren't very popular with common people. And he told them things they shouldn't do. And this got him in trouble with a guy named Herod. Y'all remember his name? Antipas. Herod Antipas. Got him in trouble with this King Herod Antipas. And I want to see the backstory of this, and I want to read kind of right the middle, and then we'll finish it up. But the backstory is King Herod Antipas was married. And he started getting interested in his brother's wife. She was cute. We think. So they started flirting. And Herod Antipas goes along and divorces his wife and marries his brother's wife, who got divorced from his brother. And her name was, anybody know? Herodias. Scandalous. I hope she's prettier than her name thinks. I mean, if that happened today, I mean, it'd be all over the news, right? Life groups would break up, churches would split. We're talking about long time ago stuff. Well, John the Baptist comes along, and King Herod knows John the Baptist, and he respects him. And John the Baptist says, y'all ought not to be doing that. Makes sense, right? You ought not, Herod, you do not need to be doing it. It's just not right. Well, Herodias hates John the Baptist. Right? I mean, wouldn't you? Somebody comes along and says, you ought not be doing it. Anybody ever had anybody come up to them and say, you ought not be doing that? Anybody? Okay. Now, the first emotion you have is hate for that person. Okay? Don't be spiritual and say, oh, thank you for showing me the error of my ways. Because you've never, ever said that right off the bat. You hate them. Or you come back with, well, you ought not to be doing Anyway, so John the Baptist is telling this to Herod and Herodias, which is weird that their names are like that. It's okay. So Herodias goes to Herod and says, I'd like him dead. Right? I'd like him dead. Well, King Herod, I don't like him enough that I'll have him jailed, but I'm not going to kill him. So King Herod puts John the Baptist in jail. Kind of to satisfy Herodias, but also to kind of satisfy himself. Next verse, Matthew 6, Mark 6:17. We'll pick it up, kind of right there. For Herod himself had given orders to have John arrested, and he had him bound and put in prison. He did this because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, whom he had married. Keep going. We'll just fly through some of these. For John had been saying to Herod, it's not lawful for you to have your brother's wife. Big fat duh. Okay, 19. That is not the right one. That ain't even right in Matthew. Why did I give you that one? Wow, that's going to stink when we get to that section. That's okay. Yeah, that'll work. So Herodias nursed a grudge against John and wanted to kill him, but she was not able to. Yeah, we know this because I can give you more, right? Because Herod didn't want him to be. So that catches us up. Okay? Lesson number 1, don't mess with a woman. They mean. I got like 15 funny things I could say about that, but she's really close. That's all you're getting. That's all you're getting. Okay. So she's out for blood, and she wants to kill the guy. That's okay. Herod protected him, kind of put him in jail. So you've got John the Baptist, who did nothing in his life, nothing, but point people into the direction of Christ. And here he is in jail. What do you think John the Baptist's attitude was while he was in jail? Do you think he held faithfully to his, I'm trusting in God? Or do you think he had some doubts? Do you think he kind of lost it a little bit? So we're going to vote. How many of y'all think he held faithfully to his belief in Jesus while he was in prison? How many of y'all believe that? Way high, way high. Come on, we got to get a percentage here. All right. How many of you all believe he had some doubts about this Jesus stuff after he had spent his whole life doing it and found himself in prison? All right, we're about 50. Right? How many of y'all say, there's no way I'm raising my hand in this church? I've heard what happens. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty. And yes, that's probably doing it. You see, I'll tell you. He's sitting in jail thinking about how he told people, don't follow me, follow Jesus. He's thinking about how he told everybody Messiah's coming, the Savior of the world's coming. And he's thinking about how much he gave up his life. Remember, loincloth, animal skins, locust, honey, that was it, lived in the wilderness. He's thinking about how much he sacrificed so that others would know about Jesus. That's what he's thinking about while he's in jail. And I got to be honest with you. That's exactly what I would think about. It's exactly what I would be going through my head. Are you kidding me? One little one statement gets me in here, and God allows this to happen? I have lived my whole life serving him, but this is how I get paid back. Anybody want to be honest enough to say, yep, that's where you'd live? Look next to you at the liars you're sitting next to. Just look at them. Welcome to Beach Baptist. We're here for the liars. Man, see, I'm going to be sitting in there going, man, I can't wait to see what Jesus does to get me out of this. This is going to be good. I mean, I'd be looking out of that jail cell at all them guards going, I wouldn't stand close. Listen, I know it's coming. There's going to be some lightning happening. There's going to be some earthquakes coming. Y'all all going to get saved and give me 10% of what you got in your pocket. I can't wait. I mean, God owes me. Right? God owes me. I mean, I've given my whole life. God owes me. Guess what Jesus did? You might know this story. Know what Jesus did? Nothing. Nothing. As far as John's concerned, he didn't do anything. He performed some miracles. He healed some people. He fed a whole bunch of people. He made blind people see. While John the Baptist hung out in jail. Now, what's interesting about this story is that there's some disciples who've come to visit John in jail. Not Jesus, but some disciples. And the disciples are looking at John and they're going, oh, you can't imagine what Jesus is doing. Holy cow. Saw him heal an entire bunch, a whole room full of people. We saw him throw a demon out of a woman, threw it into a pig, and made the pigs run off of the cliff. It was super cool. John, you should have been there. Which John would have replied, duh. Okay? But they're telling him all these stories. So John says, could y'all do me a favor? Number one, shut up. Number two, could you go ask this guy if he's even the right guy? Can you go and say, hey, Jesus, are you the one that John's been talking about? Or are we supposed to be waiting on another? All you who raised your spiritual hands that John hung on to his faith are wrong. John is just like you and me. And he sat in jail and said, that man owes me. And there's no way he's who I've been talking about if I'm still here. And he's out there doing the miracles that he really owes me one of. So go ask him. So the disciples go and ask him. And what does Jesus say? Did I give you Jesus' response? You got to get this out of Matthew. Matthew 11:2, I think. We're going to read through fast. We're going to read through all of them fast so you can have it. When John was in prison, heard about the deeds of the Messiah, he sent his disciples, keep going. Wow, that turned slow. To ask him, are you the one who is to come or should we expect someone else? Got it. Verse 4. Jesus replied, here we go. So they go and do that. Here's what Jesus says. You go back to John and report what you hear and see. And then he tells them, the blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised. Hold on. And the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Yahoo! Verse 6. And you tell him, blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me. You do know that was directly directed at John. You do know that that's directly directed at you and me. Because blessed is the one who does not stumble on account of me. Blessed is the one who doesn't sit around with their lips stuck out when they've asked and they've asked and they've asked and nothing happens. Blessed is the one who doesn't stop doing what God had them do because it doesn't feel right. Blessed is the one who doesn't ignore what God's telling them just because it doesn't sound like good news to their ear. Blessed is the one who does not stumble on account of me. That's kind of hard to figure out, right? Especially when you remember the faithfulness of John the Baptist. And you remember that his whole life, 100% of his life was devoted to telling people about Jesus. Now, how many of you have devoted 100% of your life to telling people about Jesus? Finally, you tell the truth. I didn't see if you raised your hand, sorry. And yet, you and I think Jesus should do for us more than he even did for a guy like John the Baptist. But God, you're lucky to have me. I mean, there's some stuff on the planet that would be really bad if it wasn't for me. I mean, remember those people I shared with? Where would they be now if it wasn't for me? And I know when you say it out loud like that, you're like, ugh. But in reality, we kind of think that way sometimes. That God's blessed to have me in his life. I deserve the miracle. I deserve to have God give me exactly what I've asked for. I deserve it. I am claiming it today. Well, claim it if you want to claim it. It don't mean God's going to give it. But you got to ask, why not? You've got to ask, but I have done so much, but I am doing what God asked me to do. I am following Jesus. I'm doing all that. I said, why then wouldn't I expect him, because he loves me, to do what I've asked him to do? Why not? Let's finish the story and we'll kind of see. So Jesus continues pushing his message forward, doing miracles and doing what God sent him to do. And John continues to kind of wait in prison. Wait to see what happens. And he's trying to believe. Along this time, Herod throws a keg party. I kid you not. It was a humdinger. You have Herod, you have all of his chief officials, you've got his little skank wife, Herodias. Yeah, she's there. Her kids are there. You know, it's a real debacle. Things are getting kind of wild and crazy, and we're told that Herodias' daughter, I forget her name. Anybody know her name? What is it? Salmon? No, that's a fish. It's kind of like that, though. What? It's not Sheila, it's Sheila. Come on, I wrote it down. Salome. Does that sound good? We'll call her Sheila. Oh, there it is. Salome. Yeah. Salome's probably right. Here's what happens. Everybody's drunk. Salome does a dance. Now, since John the Baptist is in the story, we know it's probably a waltz or a ballet. It's probably not a twerk. Probably does not include a pole. But we don't know. Because we do know that Herod saw the dance and said, "Woo-hoo! I likey." That was some good shaking. So good that I'm going to give you anything you want, Salome. Well, Salome's probably 15, 16 years old, and we know that she would have wanted an iPhone, an iPad, 2 tickets to Justin Bieber, or The Weeknd. Could have been. We know they want kind of those things, but she's a little immature. So she runs over to her mama Herodias and says, "Hey, mama, what we want? He said we can have anything." Herodias says, "Tell him you want John the Baptist's head on a platter." So Salome runs back in the room and says, "Hey, stepdaddy, I want John the Baptist's head on a silver platter." Herod says, "Crap." Because Herod is a man of integrity, even though he had a little too much to drink. And he knows he's made a promise in front of all these people, his chief, his executives, everybody's there, and he's made this promise out loud. He had. Okay. So he sends a guy towards the prison. Now, anybody not read this whole story? Because it gets funny. It's really good because the guy's headed to the prison. And about the time he gets there, 17 angels fly out of heaven. And they have flamethrowers. It's the coolest image you've ever had. And as the executioner gets close to the gate, they launch their flamethrowers and they toast everybody in the place. And music starts to blare because they brought trumpeters with them. And the gate cells fly right open. And out comes John the Baptist, painted blue, and yells, "Freedom!" And then he moons the dead guards. It's the coolest story you've ever heard. Yep. That's not how the story goes? Well, if I was writing a story, that's how it would go. Isn't that how it would go if you wrote the story? John's there praying, Get me out of this. Jesus doesn't even pay for an attorney to represent him. What happens? Cuts his head off, sticks it on a silver platter, brings it back to Salome. And that, folks, is the end of our story. What else can you talk about John the Baptist? I mean, his head's on a platter. He did. Lived his whole life serving God. Ended up on a platter at a drunk party. Can you believe it? Why? Why? Look at Proverbs 19:21. We'll tell you the why. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. You see, when you and I are so stuck on the plan, God's up there going, I'm talking about a purpose. John the Baptist's complete life was to herald Jesus onto the planet. Where was Jesus? Y'all are smart. He was on the planet. So John the Baptist's chief purpose in life was to herald Jesus onto the planet. Jesus is on the planet. Purpose accomplished. Now, it may not have ended the way John the Baptist planned, but the purpose was done. You see, you and I are constantly after the plan, not the purpose. And we're clearly taught all over the Bible that God's purposes are what we're here for. The plans change. You change. And we have plan after plan after plan after plan. But God's purpose will always prevail. Listen, I am so thankful that God is not as willy-nilly, wishy-washy as I am. I am glad that if something goes bad, I don't pray and boom, it gets fixed. So happy that way. Why would I want to serve a God who's that way? Why would I want to serve a God who's only reactionary to what the planet throws at me? You got a disease? That stinks. I want to draw closer to God. My plan is to live until I'm 80. So I've got to plan, or I've got to pray about every single thing to get me to 80. And I miss God's purpose in between because I'm constantly focused on my plan. Oh, I got an ache. Anybody got an ache? Now I know you're lying. Yeah, we got an ache. You got an ache. God, you're going to have to take this pain away. I'm not going to be able to serve you if you don't take this pain away. We got a plan. We got a plan. It's got to be this way, God, or I can't do what you've told me to do. Like God's up there going, oh, forgot. I got to make your knee better so that you can serve me. Thank you for the reminder. No, see, our plan always comes to the forefront of our mind because we think our plan is what's going to prevail. John the Baptist thought his plan was going to prevail. I've served God forever. I've given him my whole life. I can expect him to show up. Jesus didn't even come see him in jail. Why? Because he was fulfilling his purpose. Back up to that verse that tells us what was going on while John the Baptist was in jail. Like there, that one. All this that Jesus was on the planet to do was getting done while John the Baptist was worried about his plan. You see, when you're concentrated on what God's purpose for your life is, you don't worry about the plans. You don't worry about other people's plans. You don't worry about what they think your plan ought to look like. You don't worry about if your plan looks like everybody else's plan. You don't worry about if you've got a backup plan in case your regular plan fails. I mean, serious. God's purpose in my life will be fulfilled. It will prevail. And my plans will be shot to the garbage can. That's where my plans end up. Every single time. And on the off chance that you hit it right, that your plan lines up with God's plan, please remember your plan never, ever lined up with God's plan. It was always God's plan. You are not good enough to get your plan approved by God. His purpose prevails. And I know you've never been taught that. I know you've grown up thinking, I am a child of the Most High God. I am valued, and God values me. And all that's true. You and I take that and turn it around to, and now He's going to give me anything I want. All I got to do is ask for it, and I'm going to get it. Like you're a spoiled kid. Our plans are nothing. His purpose prevails. And I hope that rocks your prayer life. I hope that rocks your Christian walk. And I hope your plans start to pale in comparison to God's purposes. Because just like John the Baptist, the purpose will get fulfilled. And your plans will fade away. Stand with me and we will go. Let me finish today by a little different. I want to ask you some questions. How many of you, let's just close our eyes and we're going to be churchy for just a minute. Let's not look at your neighbor and let's just look at yourself. How many of you would actually say there's something going on in your life that you don't agree with? Between you and God, you're not in agreement. You think it should be another way. Would you just raise your hand for a minute? Just be real honest that there's some things that ain't right and you can't seem to get on. I want you to keep it up. Just keep it up. Because what I'm going to do, I'm going to pray for you a minute. We're going to say this. God, I pray that with these hands in the air, they are a surrender to the plan that they had in their mind. And that they will look to you for your purpose for their life. And that they will change their mind. And that they will accept your purpose. God, I pray that you'll take my plans away from me. That you'll make them pale. And you'll make me see your purpose for me. Thank you that on the other side of it is perfection. All right, you put your hands down, but keep your eyes closed a minute. And now how many of you would say, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. I don't even know who this guy is. I don't know who John the Baptist was. I don't know who Jesus really is. I've heard the stories, but I haven't ever really done what it seems like everybody else in the room's done. Would you just raise your hand? Saying, I'm not there yet. I'm not asking you to commit to anything. I'm not asking you to walk down the aisle. I'm simply saying you haven't been there yet. That you can even understand what it means to forget your plans and accept God's purpose. Yep. I'm going to pray for you now. God, you know that heart that has their hand in the air. You know them by name. I pray that as they continue walking and searching and looking for you, that they'll find you. And that God, as they look back, they will understand that your purpose was to draw them in the whole time. And that while they thought they were living their life, they really never were. Thank you for your faithfulness in drawing your children to your side. And God, for the rest of us, who on one hand believe we've got it all together, but in reality, not so much. Reveal in our hearts where our plans really are pushing our lives along. Help us to see your purpose. Help us to understand you over us. For we know that as we love you more, we will draw closer to you. In your name we pray. Amen. Just a really quick announcement. We're going to get out of here. Wednesday night. We're back up here Wednesday night, right? Oh, we're back over in the retreat center this Wednesday night. So for all of you who've been playing hooky on Wednesday night because you don't like eating in the church, you've been missing it. But still, we're back over in the retreat center, 5:30 Wednesday night for dinner, and then Bible study at 6:15. Going to be a good time Wednesday night, so come on out and see that. Then coming up, if you're here March the 12th, I need you. Okay? March the 12th is our busiest week in March we have our college groups that are staying on our campus. If you'll you can text me, email me, call the office, email the office at beachbaptist.org, that you're going to be here and you wouldn't mind helping some. We're going to build little shifts up. It's almost 24/7 for 6 days of help around the campus. It's not really overnight. We've got somebody for that. But in the day, coming up, cleaning up. It's 130 college kids. So I don't know if you've been alive with college kids or not, but you know what 3 of them can do. Do that math. So we want them to have a great week. We've got to feed them all 3 meals, 6 days, clean up after them, make sure they're happy, healthy, wise, and making good decisions. And no, we're not doing any of that. We're just going to clean up after them. So if you can help in that area, if you'll just call the office, email me, email the office, whatever you got to do to get your name on a list, that we can just say, I need you on Tuesday, 2 to 4, whatever. And you say, yep, and we can help you out to help and serve. And then Shrimp Festival's coming up March the 12th. Hey, where's the sign-up sheets? Anybody seen them? We have a sign-up sheet to work on the float. If you'll go to the coffee shop, Laura, would somebody go to the coffee shop and kind of tell them the dates that's happening? If you can work on the float in the next week, we got to have some work on the float for the shrimp parade. And then also, one last sign-up. Foot washing ceremony, Maundy Thursday, which is the Thursday before Easter. Foot washing / Lord's Supper service here at the church. If you want to be in on that, you got to sign up for it because we're dividing up into teams for the service time. So it's going to be a great time. Great month. Going to be exciting to be here and watch what God's purposes are for our lives as He really messes up our plan. If you don't understand what that looks like, just hang out at Beach Baptist. You will see the plans get blown up all the time. Serious. It's really fun. Right? Right, Corey. Oh, hey, how you doing? Missed you down there. You're usually over there. Messed me up. Would you pray and send us out of here?